I think I'm playing chess, I see a king, I'm at his neck. I'm 3 steps ahead at every move, now that's a check. Yes, they wanna know my secret, it's because I never slept. If you think I'm not a threat, I'm like, incorrect.
Alright, so today we're going to go over Scholar's Mate, and it's been very popular. And I think we're going to go not how to pull off the Scholar's Mate, but how to defeat it. And I guess the reason why it's popular is pretty well known. So we have a common opening e4, e5. It's one of the most common openings, along with the queen pawn opening. So we have the queen coming out early. We didn't see this exact mate, but what it does is attack the pawn, and also he's setting up for the bishop to go to c4. So bishop from here to there for mate on f7, and it's also attacking the pawn for a check. So we defend the pawn with the knight. It's a very standard move to develop the knight. And now the bishop comes out, and we're still threatening on f7. So you can't move out the knight to f6 because then it's still mate, because it doesn't stop the queen from coming in. So we threaten the queen with a pawn, which is the best move on g6. And white's still trying to attack that f7 pawn. And this time we did see this kind of mate in PogChamps, where the queen moves here and it's mate. In this case, you would move the knight out, because now the queen protects the knight. And it is possible to use the queen, but you're doing the same thing white's doing by moving your queen out way too early. It generally blocks your bishop. You don't really want to do that. And so white decides to be very sneaky and move over here, because it's still trying to attack this stupid f7 pawn, and it's going to use the bishop to do so. And the answer for black should be knight to d4. This attacks the queen. It develops the knight to a good square. For black, it's usually along this row here, anywhere in here, but once it gets over to these areas, it diminishes in power. It needs to be in the center of the board, usually in these ranks here. And for white, it would be in the f to 6 area, but when it gets to the edge of the board, it's not so powerful. But anyway, we're attacking the knight here, and there's a couple continuations for white. They have to make a decision, and the decision might look like something like this. Continuing with the attack, we attack the pawn. That's a check. And after check, the king moves, because it's not really a big deal. The queen cannot move from this area. If it moves from this area, then the king goes in and attacks the bishop by taking it, and you lose 3 points for no reason. And so if the queen moves off the row, or the diagonal here, the bishop falls. And if the queen just moves forward, we go ahead and attack. And it's important to note you can't move here, because there's too many. There's the knight attacking, and then the pawn attacking, and king attacking. The only other square you can go to is this one, and we were just there. So the knight attacks there. This is the only square to go if you want to save the bishop. Now the pawn is attacking the queen, so we're eliminating all the squares along this little diagonal here. And you can't just check here because the pawn will take. And then so we move forward to check the king again, but then we lose the bishop. Alright, so there are 3 pieces down, or 3 points down, and you can't take the knight, you can't take the pawn because of the knight. You can take this pawn, and it's probably the best move in this scenario, but we're already at a -10. And so taking this, and then we still have a family fork here, and the king can move over, but we lose a rook. So another response that white can do is after f3 we move back for our bishop. Queen f3, and then our bishop moves, we move back behind the actual bishop here, and we're going to attack, but maybe not right away. We have the knight moving. We move right by the knight so that we can defend ourselves and also attack the knight. And so d5 is a strong move for two reasons. It both develops central squares for the pawn, where white's really not doing much here. It's got some very expensive pieces out right now, and it could have just had a pawn to battle for these 4 squares here, which is paramount in chess in general. So if the bishop takes, we exchange pieces for the knight, and there's a pawn take. But now we have a bishop, we're capturing the queen basically, and if the queen decides to move, so now the queen has to move somewhere. So it can move here, it can move here, it can't move here because we have a family fork on, delete that, because the pawn would just take in that case. Queen moves here, knight takes pawn, check, and then the bishop defends, so the king has to do something, moves over here, we take here. According to this, we're 7.6 up. Having studied all that, queen goes to g3, and then the knight can capture, freeing will, and then we have a little bit of the same kind of thing. And actually, I think this is the better move. Could be wrong. It really doesn't matter. We're so far up. It's still 8.1 negative. The knight can come out. The rook still falls. And it's important to note that if we push this pawn at any point in time, we're attacking the queen. Alright, so let's go back to d3. Actually, let's just go back to the beginning. And we have our game here, and we chase the knight away. Or we chase the queen away. And the knight comes out to attack the queen. Once again, because the wayward queen right here with c20 king pawn game, wayward queen attack, basically means that the queen has no business being out that many times. You've moved it like what, 5 times by now? And so queen to d3, and then the pawn, and a pawn captures this time instead of the bishop being lost, and we still move the bishop out to attack the queen. So every piece we moved out pretty much has attacked the queen. And the queen moves all the way, and that's the best move as we saw before. And the knight still captures, and the pawn, and the king has to move away, and then you can have a choice on whether to move this up. We'll turn it back on and go through it one more time. The bishop goes here. We take the rook because we're not losing anything. And the bishop takes, the pawn takes. Now we're at least 2 points up. We'll go there. And then the rook comes to capture the queen. Queen moves away because it's scared. Mostly the fact that the queen has made way too many moves. Move 1, move 2, move 3, and it has to make a 4th and 5th move. And that's just crazy. So don't fall for the scholar's mate. And if you want a short version of this, move the pawn out or the knight out, depending on where the queen lands. If it lands there, the pawn goes. If it lands there, the knight goes. And then the queen can defend if it needs to. Alright, that was fun.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. Pacing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.